Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 44 of the Computer Business Podcast. This episode is brought to you by Ninja MSP. Ninja MSP's vision is to deliver an amazing next-generation RMM experience with best-in-breed integration of the products you love to use. To learn more, go to ninjamsp.com. This episode is also brought to you by TechSite Builder. TechSite Builder is a hosted website builder that allows you to quickly and easily get a clean and professional website up and running for your computer or tech-focused business. Save time and frustration with TechSite Builder. To learn more, go to techsitebuilder.com. Today, we're going to talk about how to market your computer business like a big MSP. I'll be speaking with Aaron Mangal, Business Development Manager for Network Remedy, a full-service managed service provider in Silicon Valley. We'll go into how to borrow marketing techniques from bigger companies and apply them to your own business, among other marketing tips and tricks. Also, Paco's going to talk about how he handles losing a core service partner in his business. I'll talk about a new convention you should check out this year. And in the toolbox, we'll talk about a plugin that can help make sure you're using proper grammar in your client communications. All that and so much more coming up right now.
Welcome to the Computer Business Podcast, where you'll learn how to start and grow your own successful computer business. And now, here's your friendly neighborhood computer guy, Matthew Rodella.
Hey, everyone, and welcome to the 44th episode of the Computer Business Podcast. I am Matthew Rodella, a.k.a. your friendly neighborhood computer guy.
And I'm Paco LeBron.
And this is the podcast where you can learn to start and grow your own successful computer business. You can find all the links mentioned in this episode at computerbusinesspodcast.com/episode 44. While you're there, be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcatcher using the links provided. Also on that page, in the sidebar, you can subscribe to the Your Friendly Neighborhood Computer Guy newsletter, a monthly digest of tips and tricks for growing your computer business. When you sign up, you'll also get a free copy of my ebook called 20 Things You Can Do Right Now to Improve Your Computer Business. The book contains 20 practical tips to help you take your computer business to the next level. All that for free as our way of saying thanks for being a listener and a subscriber. Also, while you're there, be sure to follow us on your favorite social media platform. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, and LinkedIn, and you can find links to all of those social media sites on our show notes page. All right, so today we are going to talk about marketing and how to market your computer business by borrowing some of the tips and tricks of the bigger MSPs and the bigger computer businesses that are out there. It's a great way. It's a great thing to just go out and kind of look at what the big guys are doing, some of the techniques they're using, and just borrowing some of that stuff and applying it to your own business. And so I'm going to talk with someone who works with a bigger MSP. His name is Aaron Mangal, and he's got a lot of great insights about some of the things that the big guys are using that you can use in your own business. And he's also talking about some of his experience he's had in marketing for startups and for new products and for some other things that he's had experience with. So we're going to tap into his experience with bigger companies and other industries and find out what works and some of the things we can apply to our own business. Also, as always, I'm joined by my trusty co-host, Paco LeBron. How you doing, Paco?
I'm doing much better today, Matt.
Yeah. So a couple days ago, I know you were kind of down and out with a stomach bug or something like that, and that's been kind of rough. But you're on the mend, I suppose. You're sounding a lot better now.
Yeah, much better. Actually, it was in the last 48 hours. It was really oh man, it was bad. So so from like midnight of Friday night till the next morning, I was literally with no sleep, dealing with a really bad flu, or it might have been food poisoning, not sure. But all of Saturday, I pretty much was bedbound. I was aching. I just couldn't do nothing, just a whole lot of nothing. And although that it was really bad, it actually turned out to be really good because I was able to kind of not do anything. And it's the first day in a long, long time that I didn't do anything regarding any business venture, whether it be my own business, whether it be the podcast, whether it be just researching or learning or reading. It was just all me. I just literally
forced you to take a break.
Correct. Yep,
And maybe you needed that also. So
it's funny.
It was a good.
I was talking to a friend of mine, and they were mentioning the same thing. Like, yeah, for someone who doesn't sleep as often, I think this is your body pretty much telling you, yeah, no, this is it. This is our day, and this is what's going to happen. So, it was a matter of just kind of relaxing, just hydrating myself, and just taking a real mental release on everything, and kind of just putting a lot of things in perspective for me.
So that was on a Saturday, and since you run your business part time, that's normally a day where you like get a lot of work done, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And I really want, and it's so for everyone doesn't know, it's me being a single father, I have my daughter every other weekend. So normally and this was a weekend that I had free. And it was one of those where this Saturday I had a whole thing planned out. I have postcards that I've had printed out there. I have about 5,000. I think there's probably about a good 3,800 left. I was going to grab a good stack of those, go out into some of the areas of, Evanston, some of the nearby suburbs, pass out the postcards, walk around, introduce myself, kind of drum up some new business, work on some things. I mean, I had the whole day planned out for the business because this past week was really hard because I was taking care of some other things, which we'll go into in a minute. And all that went out the window.
So I'm curious. So, with the postcard thing, is that something you've done before?
I have. Yeah. So, essentially what I did before was I will go ahead and pass out some postcards, throughout the neighboring areas, whether it be on, vehicles, on the doors, or walking in and introducing myself and leaving one or two with the manager or the business owner that's at a particular small shop. And it's more for brand awareness versus anything. Yep. And the bigger piece of it is just having a really good design, which my girlfriend, who does the graphic design for all my Prodigy Tech stuff. So we have a really good vivid image, and I can actually have it so you have it in the show notes, where it's basically a guy running in with a computer and it's on fire. So it's one of those visual things where they look at it and like, huh, and then they flip it over and, they have our services. So essentially what I would spend on those postcards, I think I spent probably about with design and the postcards it ran me about $150 or something like that for 5,000 of them. So, and normally from 5,000, I'll get anywhere from maybe about 2 to 5 jobs on average. And those are normally drop-offs. So that can range anywhere from just a regular diagnostic of 75 to a regular virus removal, which is 159. So essentially in one job, or if it's just a diagnostic fee, 2 jobs, it pays for itself. Right. So, and I've been profitable so far with it. This is our latest one with our new designs. So we're going to try and get rid of these 5,000. And then I got a couple better ideas on our next ones. And that's kind of what I've been doing just to kind of spread the word about myself, because a lot of people will see that we are in downtown Chicago. We are in downtown Evanston, but they don't know that we can go on site. And that's the purpose of having the postcards there, because, just me, if I were to pick up a postcard in my area and I see an address for, let's say in the south side of Chicago, well, if they passed out a postcard up here, it means that they come to my area. So that's kind of what I play on as far as on that thought. Yeah,
and I've said this before, but one of my favorite advertising techniques that I've done is to beat the street and get out there and walk around and actually hand out, face to face your postcards, because between that and just sending them blindly through the mail or, dropping them off, without actually meeting the people you're handing them to, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, trying to develop that personal communication and that relationship, that's kind of really what we want to be at. And it was one of those where I kind of fell off from, and which we'll go into in a minute, is being able to connect with someone allows you to be able to better help them and understand what they need, versus them finding you through a traditional avenue of Google AdWords. They got a postcard in the mail. Now there's a little bit of face, there's a voice, there's a name that's associated with what that business is offering.
Yep. And then, they might even have a question they want to ask you right then and there, like, oh, hey, do you work on this? Or, hey, I have this problem. What do you think? And that way you can right there answer their questions and let them, get them to trust you and that sort of thing. So cool. So hopefully you'll be able to do that, next weekend or something. Yep. Make up for that. I know, that's something that happens to the best of us, right? No matter how hard you try to take care of yourself or, how hard you work, you're still going to have those days where, something's going to happen, or heaven forbid, you get in an accident or something happens and you're out, from running your business for a while. And that's something you kind of have to plan for, plan for the worst, hope for the best. So right. Try to keep yourself healthy and try to keep it so that you're running the business all the time. But if you want to have a plan for if you do happen to be taken away from your business for one reason or another, this especially affects those of us who are single business owners. We're the only ones who not only run our business, but actually do the work and all of that stuff. So I know I ran into this a couple years ago and wrote a blog post about it. Cause, I would have to go to my National Guard duty for a couple weeks. And then, back then I had also gotten sick a couple times in a row. So some of the tips that I gained from that, I wrote a blog post about it, and I'll have the link to that in the show notes. But the post is called How to Handle a Leave of Absence from Your Computer Business. And we just talk about, things like, making sure you have a plan, making sure you have either someone you can lean on to take that overflow business from you, or have some kind of communication in place to let people know what's going on. And one of the best changes I made in my own business recently was to focus more on bigger projects and not so much, day to day kind of putting out fires. That way I can afford to take a couple of days off here and there. And really, because I'm working on a big project and say it's not due until, a month down the line, I can be flexible with the days in between. Maybe I can spend a couple all-nighters working on the project, during the week. And that way it could free me up for a couple of days later on in the week and that sort of thing. So just something to keep in mind, something to plan for, whether you plan your business around it or whether you just have some kind of, just in case scenario where you have either a partner or some other way that you can pick up the business while you're gone. It's good to keep in mind.
Yep, exactly. And exactly how you said it. It was one of those where as I was sitting in my misery, I was trying to figure out exactly how to prevent that type of deal. Like what you just said, like being a single, business operator and being the technician and kind of doing everything all yourself, it kind of makes things hard where if you're the single point of failure, or like we used to say at my old job, a SPOF, which is basically the abbreviations of it, right. Is essentially you need to figure out what you're going to do, and you got to put these things in place so that in the event this happens again, you're out of town, you may be at a convention. Hint, hint. We'll talk about that in a bit. That's kind of where you got to figure out what's going to be best for you and what's going to be best for your business.
Right. Exactly. And I know you had another setback recently in your business as well. Did you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So 2 weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago or so, I woke up to an email so as everyone knows, I was using Aurora PC as my help desk essentially, and they provided level 1 customer service for my customers, along with answering our phones, speaking with everybody through our live chat, etc. Great company. I have to say that they probably have helped me grow in many ways. And we received an email that morning stating that unfortunately they had to close their doors effective immediately. So woke up Monday morning, realized I had no help desk and had no answering service. So as I woke up in frantic, I basically had all these, things running in my head, because essentially me being a part-time tech per se, I needed to have the phones answered. And I knew that whichever way I went, it was going to take time for me to get back to where I needed to be. So after I kind of, calmed down in just trying and stop being frantic and really trying to figure out everything, I essentially had to put all my things in one basket and figure out, all right, what am I going to do that's in this one basket, and start picking out things so I can line them up essentially. So what all that means is basically I had to call back and figure out, all right, I need someone to answer my phones. That's really all I needed. I usually had the service for. So I ended up calling an old vendor of mine, went back with them. They actually hooked us up in about 3 days right after. But those 3 days, we actually had to do some damage control. So had to forward the phones back to myself, revert all the live chats and kind of all that sort of thing. And what really made it a good experience was essentially a lot of the things I did not do while with them, because they were kind of an all-in-one service. So you can have your number with them, you can have your backups with them, reselling their backup product, jumping on their web chats, so on and so on. And I never fully invested in all the products that they offered, because in my head, I always felt that if I didn't have control and if someone pulled the rug under me, like in this case, it was closed effective immediately. That was right then and there. I had to come up with a plan for everything that I had. And luckily I own my own number with another vendor. I have my talk to live chat that I've talked about that has different actions on there. I've had my own reselling of backups. So it didn't affect me as hard as a lot of other techs that probably were with them. But it was one of those where it just showed me that, and I'm going to go back to my basket again of having all your eggs in one basket. It's never a good thing to have it that way, because obviously if that one thing is just pulled out from under you, you had a lot of work to do and probably, a lot of money to spend that you may not have at that one point, which is really going to cripple your business, especially if you're starting out. So it was a very good experience. In my opinion, it's what I like to call, or not what I like to call, I've taken this from a motivational speaker, Les Brown. It was a very big character building day for me.
There you go.
It was,
and anytime something like that happens, there's definitely lessons you can take from it.
Exactly.
And I hate to be, a masochist, but especially if it happens to us, we can share it with a bunch of people on the podcast. So it's never good that it happens to us, but at least there's a silver lining where we can learn from it. We can make sure other people can learn from it as well.
Yeah. And I'll probably expound on this a little bit in more detail in a future blog post article on the YFNCG website. But it was one of those where, there was a lot of emotions involved. I'm not the calmest person in the world. So it was one of those where I was basically freaking out because it was a Monday morning. It was starting of a business week, and a core partner of my business or core function was gone. And I had to figure out what I was going to do. So right now I haven't gone to a help desk. I'm still figuring out if I even still want to go back to a help desk again. I'm currently I went back with my with my previous answering service, Go Answer, that I've mentioned before, when I first started with the podcast. And, so far it's just, I'm just going through the motions of me being the one talking to my customers. If they have a question, again, the answering service is not a technical, answering service. So they answer kind of general questions. But when it comes to technical questions or details as far as the areas and things of that nature, I have to put now more of an effort to make sure I call my customers back, or prospects, and just making sure that they got a better customer service, that I can give them as best I can, I should say. Yep. So, and it really helps out because now it gets me back into the ground and really talking to and establishing a connection with them versus just kind of having the help desk deal with them on a level one and not have any type of idea what type the person is.
There you go. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. And this is, if you're in this business long enough, this is going to happen, right? I mean, this happened with Log Me In. I think there was a big falling out because they started charging for their free plan and they started raising their prices a bunch. And so a lot of people jumped ship from there. I know the one remote solution that I recommended at the beginning, they went out of business or they got acquired and then went out of business. So this happens and with different things. And as you saw, I mean, it's just one day they're there and the next day they're gone and there's no transition period or anything like that. So just, keep your pulse on, always keep your pulse on what's out there so that you know what's out there and you can transition if you need to. That's where the network comes in, where if you have a network of other IT guys and people in this business, you can reach out to them and see what they're going to do and what they're using. And so it can definitely lessen the blow, but it's inevitable. I think it's going to happen to some service that you're using eventually, and you just got to roll with the punches and it sounds like that's what you're doing.
Yep, pretty much.
Cool. So, what's going on with my business? Luckily none of the services I'm using have gone out of business yet. But, cross my fingers, knock on wood. But, I've just finished up that business accelerator program for my WordPress consulting business that I talked about.
Nice.
The last couple of episodes. So a lot of great stuff. Luckily I have access to it so I can go back and rewatch some of the videos because there's a lot there and I'm trying to implement little pieces here and there. One of the biggest benefits of it, that I was able to implement pretty much right away was, they talked about setting up some different email templates for when you're walking your clients through the process, when you first have contact with them and then you send them an email letting them know how you do business. Like, for example, for computer repair, you could say, well, it was great talking to you on the phone. This is, where our drop-off location is, or this is how, if you set up an appointment for you to go to their place, you can say, this is what to expect when I come to do my service. I'm going to call you ahead of time to make sure you're still there. I'm going to come in and take care of this, and then we're going to pay, and this is how the payment is going to work. It's good to kind of get all of that stuff out in front before you show up so that they know what to expect. There's no surprises. They know how they're going to be expected to pay. They're going to know, what's going to happen if I call them on my way there and they don't answer. Am I still going to show up, or am I going to go to my next client? How's that going to work? So you set up that initial email about how things are going to work, set it up as a template so that you don't have to rewrite it every time. You have it there and available. You can either put it in a Word document, or for me, I'm using Mixmax. I talked about that on a previous episode. You can set up templates in Mixmax, where you just, hey, I want to use my welcome template. I choose that from a drop down, hit send, and that sends it to my client. Of course, there might be some personalization things you want to do in there, of course, like their name, and some other things that you might want to add into the email. But having those templates ready to go for every kind of situation you could think of, whether it's someone asking a common question, someone, maybe there was a billing issue or an invoicing issue, you can have some templates for that. You can have some templates for different repair issues that come up. I also have some email templates for if a client asks me a question or they're interested, like a prospect is interested in working with me, but they say, oh, I'm going to think about it, or I'm shopping around and I'm going to go to some other places. So you didn't get them as a client after the first contact. You can, maybe a few days later have a couple emails that you send out spaced out over some time, with, not necessarily saying, hey, have you made your decision yet? But something like adding value, like saying, hey, I thought you might be interested in this article about, protecting yourself from ransomware. Or I ran across these resources. I wrote these blog posts about these resources that I thought might interest you. Or, hey, here's this free white paper that I wrote about, whatever, how to keep your home network secure, or Internet of Things or something like that. All of these different resources that hopefully you're writing and making available to your clients. You can also make them available to prospects that have contacted you but haven't yet made the jump into being your client. So make some templates of those so you can send those out to these folks that you've come in contact with. And then there's also templates that you can have after you're done working with the client. 30, 60, 90 days later, you can send them some emails, just say, checking up on them and stuff like that. There are some services that you can use for this. I know Repair Shopper has some automation built into it. And I know you can, use MailChimp or Aweber, but sometimes some of these emails, aren't necessarily automated. They're things that maybe are sparked by a question that that your client asks you, or maybe you want to, play with the timing of these emails so that you send them right when when you want them to be sent. So in that case, you can just save these templates somewhere, whether it's, like I said, a text file in a folder or in Mixmax or some other service, and have those ready. That way, not only you're not wasting time writing out the whole email and every time that this situation occurs, but that you also just remember that you have these touch points that you want to make sure that you have for your clients throughout the entire process of you dealing with them. So that's been something that I've been able to implement that was part of this course. That's been very helpful.
And that's really cool too, because I actually do a little bit of that where you just mentioned like the automated things in Repair Shopper, where they kind of develop their own, check-ins. Hey, it's been 2 weeks since we've seen you, 3 months. And then I added my 2 days afterwards with a survey just to see how they thought about our, how we were as a company and our services. And then the other one pulling off as far as, hey, it's been a year. We haven't heard from you. Everything running good? If not, hey, maybe it's time to do a tune-up. And I have to redo some of those too, because like you mentioned, there was one as far as the templates, because having those templates are awesome. And it really hits home because if, like, for example, the scheduling appointments, I'd even think of a lot of the stuff you just mentioned right now where, hey, kind of tell them what's going to happen on the appointment. Hey, we're going to show up. If we don't show up or you're not there within 15 minutes, it's a canceled appointment. You will be charged, half an hour rate or whatever it may be. Once we get there, we're going to expect payment via credit card or this. We do not take checks. Just all that information kind of sent out in the scheduling email, which in Repair Shopper, when you click schedule, you put your appointments, there's a section for details. You can literally just have that all set up and automated. So when you hit send, all of it just goes every time you schedule an appointment. So I think that's really helpful.
And it's a great way to, avoid miscommunications or misunderstandings. You could even kind of space, I don't know if you can do this in Repair Shopper, but you can space it out so that you send one email, right away after you schedule the appointment. And then maybe, 24 hours before the appointment, you send out another email, because a lot of times that initial email might have a lot of information. It could be a little overwhelming. So maybe like the 24 hours, you have another email that goes out that says, okay, tomorrow we have the scheduled appointment. First of all, let us know if something happened and you need to reschedule. Also, just a reminder, this is kind of what's going to happen. This is our policy, stuff like that. Just have that there again, so that you're always, the big takeaway I got from this is to just keep the lines of communication open, always be over communicating. You really want to over communicate with your clients, because 9 times out of 10, when things go south with clients, it's because of poor communication or misunderstandings. And you just want to nip that in the bud and over communicate with your clients to let them know what's going on, so that they're always, they know what to expect, and they know how you work, and they know what's going to happen.
Yep.
Cool. So that was a good takeaway. Also something I wanted to mention that is going to be happening later this year is, Corey Fruitman from Instant House Call and the folks over there. They've been doing the IT Jetpack podcast, which, I was a guest on, actually their most recent one. If you go to itjetpack.com, you can see the last, podcast that they had. I was on with Bryce Whitty of Tech Nibble, and a couple other folks, and we talked about website stuff. So website optimization, SEO, a bunch of stuff. I know Bryce has been doing some cool stuff with, actually reviewing computer business owners' websites, like on YouTube, and through a video, like talking about like actual websites and what they can do to improve them and stuff like that. And that's been really cool. So we kind of chatted about all that stuff on that latest podcast. So what they're doing, what Corey's doing with the IT Jetpack, he's kind of funneling that into, a conference that he's putting on. And it's not really a conference, right? It's kind of like a meetup / conference. And the cool thing about it is it's really like a good, filler or a good way to like fill the gap between, some of the smaller meetups that you might have in your local area versus the large, CompTIA, ChannelCon, big events where it's just like overwhelming and a bunch of people there and big businesses are there, and it might, they might be speaking to someone that's not quite in our niche. So what Corey's trying to do with his meetup convention is to kind of fill that gap. It's targeted at, us, solo IT consultants, or us with smaller break fix shops with revenue less than, 2 million, which I'm pretty sure most of us listening to this podcast or doing this podcast our revenue is under 2 million. So it's kind of that sweet spot where, pretty much everyone who listens to this podcast fits into that. So he's billing it as the unconvention. And so I'm excited about it. I'm definitely going to be going, and participating in it. And, so I want to get the word out about the Unconvention. It's going to be in Toronto. So this is a cool opportunity for me to go to Canada. I've never been to Canada before. So this is going to be taking place, the weekend of July 22nd. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, there's going to be different events going on. So you can learn more about the Unconvention by heading over to computerbusinesspodcast.com/unconvention. I got some information about it there. And then you can go ahead and get your tickets for it and get it now, because it's only, they're only allowing 100 people at this thing. So they're really trying to keep it intimate and small. And that way it's really just a way to meet up with other computer business owners. There's going to be, of course, there's going to be vendors there that are going to be showing off, some stuff. There's going to be other technicians there that are going to be speaking and talking about their business. So it's going to be a great way to really get in with other folks who have businesses just like yours. Learn about, different things that affect your business, and really have some actionable takeaways at the end of the event to take back to your business and apply to your business and really grow your business. So if you've enjoyed, this podcast or the IT Jetpack podcast, it's going to be that kind of thing, right? So we know what to expect. It's going to be exciting. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'm going. I hope to see some of you guys there as well. Let me know if you're going, and we'll meet up. That would be a great opportunity to meet some listeners as well.
Yep. And make sure you get your passports, because those things, if you don't have one, it's going to take at least 30 days for you to get it, or you can get it sooner, but you're going to have to pay. So definitely definitely get those going. We're already in April. July is going to get here soon enough.
Yep. And you do. Yeah. And that's something I didn't know, that you still need a passport even to go over to Canada. So
yep,
definitely get that taken care of. Awesome. So, that's going to be exciting. So, we don't have emails today, but we definitely love to hear from you guys. So please, if you have any questions or comments, or you just want to say hi, send an email to computerbusinesspodcast@gmail.com, and we'll definitely be sure to read that on the air and respond to any questions you guys have. All right. Before we jump into the featured topic today, I wanted to give a shout out to our first sponsor today, which is Ninja MSP. Now, their vision is to deliver an amazing next generation RMM experience. And we talk about, a lot of us are wanting to get recurring revenue, and we want to be able to have that steady paycheck, right? Instead of the break fix kind of hills and valleys where sometimes we'll be getting a lot of work and then sometimes just nobody calls us for whatever reason. We want to have that steady income, and we can get that through recurring revenue. And the best way to do that is to get even your residential clients on some kind of maintenance plan. And the way you do that is you use an RMM, some kind of remote monitoring and management service. And that's kind of where Ninja shines, right? They're able to give you those tools to monitor your clients like you're a big MSP. And that's what we're going to get into later with the featured topic. You want to market your business like a big MSP. You also want to provide some of those same services. And that's where Ninja comes in with their best in breed integration of all of the products you love. They've made a commitment to be one of the most powerful RMMs in the marketplace. And they do that with the absolute best user experience. They make it really easy to use their product on the back end. And I know, Paco, you love using Ninja MSP because it's kind of really easy to put together and use in the back end.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one of the most simplest RMM systems that I've used of all the ones that I've messed with. And the reason why we went with them was just simply the simplicity and, like you mentioned, the power that's behind it. I mean, so this week we've been toying around with their install schedule actions, and we are working with Avast as our antivirus that we're going to be putting on our machines. And there's a way in Ninja that you can go ahead and upload this EXE or MSI, I should say, and push it as a silent installer to all these other machines that are on your clientele's list in Ninja RMM, and pushes them out, gives you the timelines on everything on all of the machines, and you get notifications once that's been completed. And the notifications on this system are great, letting you know on what's going on, whether it be updates, viruses that may have been removed. I mean, the whole total system is just really easy to use, very easy to kind of figure out. And it's not really big as far as, walking through it. Like a lot of these other RMM systems, you'll notice that you have to take a lot of amount of trainings to be certified. Ninja, you enroll in the system, you add your first client, you add your first device, and you kind of just go from there.
Yep. Yeah. They've put together, they call it a next generation platform, and you can tell they've put a lot of, thought and work into making the platform solid and easy to use. It's really a community driven product. They reach out to other IT service providers to get their feedback, and it's all packaged in a reasonable and very flexible price tag. So depending on how big of a business you are will depend on how much you pay for their products. They work with IT service providers, whether you have just a few customers or you're a huge MSP. It's built to scale with your business. So check out Ninja MSP at ninjamsp.com, and we thank them for being a sponsor of the podcast. All right, let's jump into the featured topic.
And now, the featured topic.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the featured topic for today. Today, I'm excited to have Aaron Mangal, host of the Cloud Radio Show, and also he does business development for Network Remedy, which is an IT and cloud consulting firm that's based out of Silicon Valley, and he's helping them to expand through Southern California. And I was lucky enough to be on the Cloud Radio Show here recently, and I had a blast. We talked about the cloud and about just IT services and in general, and it was a great chat. And I'm happy to have Aaron here to talk about some of the insights he's gained from working with marketing an MSP like Network Remedy. So welcome, Aaron. How you doing?
Thank you. Doing very well. Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Excellent.
Believe it or not, this is my first interview in terms of like in this format. So this is kind of fun, even though I've been doing it for a while.
So you've been interviewing people, but you haven't been interviewed.
Time for karma. I get a taste of my own medicine.
Flip
right?
the script, huh?
That's right. I like it.
Well, you were a gracious host to me, so I'll return the favor. I won't give you too hard a time.
That's funny. No Howard Stern questions, right?
Yeah, right. We're going to dig into your past transgressions. No, but we will dig in your past a little bit, but as it pertains to how you ended up at Network Remedy in your current role, just kind of give us a brief overview of what your background is and then what brought you to start working in the IT services space.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks again for the invitation. So my name's Aaron Mangal, and I actually grew up living abroad. My mom was in the Foreign Service, with the U.S. Department of State. So I lived in Pakistan, Thailand, Philippines, and that was kind of a cool upbringing. It kind of exposed me to all these different cultures and people from other countries early on in life. And then I came back to Maryland, which you may know something about that. Yes. And I did high school there, and I actually did tail end of middle school and high school, and then I basically decided to go to Raleigh, North Carolina for college at NC State University. And the reason we were in Maryland was because my parents worked in DC, the Department of State Foreign Service thing. So that was kind of our base for a while. And then North Carolina, NC State, worked there for a bit in business development. And I worked for like a franchise, College Hunks Hauling Junk. I worked for a...
Wait, what is that? College Hunks junk?
College Hunks Hauling Junk. So it's a junk removal service. Okay. It's like a nationwide brand. You may have seen the trucks around your area because they actually started in DC and then relocated to Tampa.
A truck like that.
Yeah, like a bright orange truck with like this hunk guy like holding up the College Hunks lettering. Yeah. So that was a fun time, learning about a franchise, and like I kind of got to get my hands dirty. I really like sort of, even though now I'm like more in a sort of a somewhat office or like business role, like I really enjoyed being on the trucks and like carrying heavy stuff and talking to customers and pitching, because it was so multifaceted. Like, literally
getting your hands dirty.
Quite literally, yeah, and playing with different junk. We would encounter some really strange objects on the job site, so that could be a whole nother thread. But yeah, I mean, the point of all this is that, I got a whole wealth of business development knowledge from operations, management, sales, marketing, and I think it did serve me well at that time to do all those things, because when you're at that early stage of your career, you're trying to figure out what should I do, or how should I do it, or what am I good at? So I think doing all those things was awesome. And then when I went to this company called the Product Farm, which is a industrial design firm and product design. And actually, they even started making products. We had this product called Vino to Go, the wine sippy cup, which was basically like a tumbler that was shaped in a wine glass. And so I blogged about it, and it just exploded. Like, I think I wish I could tell you I was like the super amazing genius blogger with magical words, and that caused it to happen. But frankly, it was a little bit of a good timing getting this product. And for whatever reason, in drinkware, no one had come up with a wine style tumbler. And so we were working with this company that had created that, and the company had been doing a little bit of design work on that. And so this thing just blew up like crazy. And, people were just like, where can I get that? Where can I get that? And so I was playing around with Pinterest, and that further just like it was almost like there was so much popularity that I just had to put in a drop of information out there. And like Pinterest, for example, that the crowd on Pinterest was just the sharing elements. It just proliferated like crazy. So that was a great experience with, social media and like pushing a very popular product. Anderson Cooper talked about it on his show, and Steve Harvey talked about it on his show. And, nice. It just got this crazy momentum. And then I will say it kind of petered out, but there's still been, a crazy amount of demand. But my point of saying all this is like, I've kind of had these crazy marketing and business experiences. Oh, and then with College Hunks, we actually were on, Hoarding Buried Alive, those shows about hoarders.
Right.
So if anyone wants to watch the craziest show ever, Tiny Little Monsters, look up that show. It was so disturbing. Like, I was actually more disturbed when I watched the show compared to even being in the house, which doesn't make any sense because it was horrendous. They make it so dramatic
in the show, and they only show the worst stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but to be honest with you, that was like just crazy experience. So I know that sounds really random to share, but they're just kind of random fun stories, but also they really defined my sort of experience in business development. And I think the fact that I was in something other than tech and IT actually kind of allowed me to just focus on the role and like think about it from that standpoint, because obviously like both of those companies weren't necessarily it's not like I wanted them to be my trade. It was like I wanted to learn the business skills associated with those companies and brands. And they were kind of cool too, like in terms of, so we got some different creative freedom, as in with any startup, right? You get a lot more sort of impact and power. And I mean,
so I want to stay on that for a sec, because
sure.
So how do you find and this is something that I feel like a lot of people miss when they're, especially computer business owners, when they're doing their own marketing. The power of having a good service or product to begin with. Because you said it, like you just put it out there and it just caught on like wildfire. And I know a lot of computer business owners, they rack their brain trying to find a way to spin their business or their service offerings to make it like viral or to make it catch on, when really I think, most of the effort I feel should go into making this service or product outstanding. And then kind of the marketing almost takes care of itself as long as you make sure to put it in the right spots.
You are wise but beyond your years. No, that is so awesome. That is a great perspective. I couldn't agree more, because I've been in exact situations where you're, it's like you can turn on the tap and create all this activity, but it's like, what if you aren't serving those customers well? That actually is the worst thing that could happen, because now you've got all this influx of new business and they're not being taken care of. And I would almost argue that seems to be a much bigger issue than actually getting the business itself. I think keeping up with it, like when people are on Oprah, for example, their producers will vet out your company, vet out all your systems, make sure you can handle the demand, because if they have you on that show, you're going to get a crazy amount of like an influx of new, interest, popularity, users. Can your website handle it? Can your phones handle it?
Right.
Because there's nothing worse than your website crashing from an influx. And ask me how I know that, it's like, I've seen it happen. So, no, you're totally right. I would agree. And also, just to add on to what you just said, when I was talking about the Vino to Go, keep in mind that was a B2C, business to consumer product. Mm-hmm. We're working in a business to business world, much different strokes. I mean, I think you can still bring some of the like fun from B2C marketing, but it has to be a little bit more like high level and like logical, and sort of, you kind of have to you have to articulate things a little bit differently. When I look at B2B marketing compared to B2C marketing, it's night and day. And to some degree, I feel like B2B is like, they bring out the big guns because this is like, someone trying to sell to Google, someone trying to sell to HP, someone trying to sell to Microsoft. Like, if you're trying to sell to those companies, you're going to probably like bring all the firepower you could possibly have. So it's interesting for me to kind of come into the enterprise world compared to like a long career of doing more consumer marketing. Yeah, I noticed a huge difference. And so I can see why that's such a challenge, because you want that viral, like, things to blow up. But frankly, that mostly happens with B2C. So
that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good distinction to make.
But there is that dollar raisers guy, although I guess that's B2C now that I think about it. But like that guy, I feel like he was going for kind of like a business crowd, but kept it fun. He's got this really zany video of his razors. But I think there might be ways to kind of balance like a voice like that. But I'd say for the most part, I guess what I'm trying to say is that B2B tends to be, from what I view and my observation, maybe not completely right, seems to be a little bit more conservative in the sense that it's bigger stakes, bigger money, bigger problems, bigger like everything in terms of the whole discussion. So I think that's another piece of why the marketing is different with that that sort of segment compared to like B2C, where you can be a little more goofy and fun but like when I see enterprises, I feel like the discussion has to be a little bit different, Right.
Yeah. And that's a good point. So there is definitely a difference between the consumer product and the business service. And I know a lot of our listeners kind of do both. They provide services to residential folks, consumers, just everyday average computer users, or they may also be selling their services to small businesses, or they might be doing one or the other exclusively. But I think probably the biggest challenge that they face is just getting the message out there, letting people know they exist, and then getting them to go to their website or go to their social media accounts and actually, pick up the phone and call them. So I guess, have you gained any insights since working with Network Remedy, how to get prospects to first of all know Network Remedy exists, and then to get them to pick up the phone? Sure.
So you're asking sort of what is the process of...
Just tell us all your secrets. What's the magic formula?
Got it. So, I feel like it's I don't want to say a mistake, but I feel like going from digital only. So I think the magical formula would be like, yay, I put out a blog post or tweet, post on LinkedIn, etc. Someone clicks on my website and is like, yes, I want that. And they're like, hey, I want to hire you. Please, let's do business, right? That's sort of the magical goal formula. Right. But as I had alluded to you earlier, when, I mentioned I had given a talk on marketing at a MSP World, all these mediums get saturated eventually. So I always say, focus on your messaging first. Get that messaging tight. And it's something I'm still, tweaking and like rethinking or like pitching to somebody and then thinking like, okay, like, did they seem to get it? Or like, how was it? So I would almost say, pretend there's no social media, pretend there's no marketing channels, and just pretend you only have your message and you have to like tell it to this group of people in this room. And the reason I say that is because I want people to sort of remove all the noise being all those channels. Which one should I use? I don't know. Which is the best? And just focus on your message. And I liked what you said earlier too about focusing on your service. But since you're asking marketing specifically, I'll stick to that. So you focus on your message and you get it really tight. Your pitch is great. I would say pitching that to people in person, whether you do a seminar, a lunch and learn, a course, sort of a live sort of a fireside chat panel, there's all these different formats and names. I personally have been looking more towards sort of the like course/seminar format, like maybe in shorter form, like maybe like an hour or 2 or 3, or if you're so inclined and want to put together something longer, please do. I actually wish more people would do that around here, because I would love to attend more courses like that and learn, different things. I think Microsoft was doing a Microsoft Roadshow, and they had 2 days where you could basically like get a bunch of free free courses and free just teaching, And by the way, Microsoft, in my opinion, has some of the best marketing in the cloud space. The best. I mean,
interesting.
I actually told everyone at my presentation, like, look at what Microsoft's doing, because they're great at storytelling. They're great at promoting case studies. I'm going through the airport. I see a billboard about how the cloud helped Real Madrid and the soccer stuff.
Nice.
And so I'm like, whoa. So, I think I would say, look at what the pros are doing, focus on your message, and then actually try pitching like in person, because I feel like in IT and the cloud and whatever, permutation of those services you're using, it's a people business. Like, I interviewed this guy, David Bryden, who's a MSP in Orange County, and he was saying, yeah, people still want to see the whites of your eyes. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And so I would almost say reverse your use of digital tools. Go in person first, and then leverage the digital tools to keep up with those people. Now, does that sound a little crazier than what most people say? Because we're told, like, use all these tools and like tweak them.
Get on social media, blog, do all this stuff behind the computer.
I've had great experience just meeting people in person. And then I realized, hey, maybe I should like pitch more to people in person. And so that's sort of a shift, that I've had from doing purely digital. And like, you can hit digital super hard and like be putting out really good content and even promoting it well to some degree. But I kind of feel like I think this is why this format is so cool. And like, when we talked and then I listened to your show, it was like I had talked to you and then I'm hearing your show and it's like I'm hearing your voice. There's much more intimacy. A blog post does not have that intimacy. Written stuff does not have that intimacy. And I think all of a sudden I realized it. I was like, I think the problem is that your messaging is just impersonal if you don't have the experience of you behind it. And that's, again, back to why this medium is so good, because they're hearing you, they're hearing me, they're hearing how we think, how we are, our personality comes through. Our personality does not come through in a blog. I wish it did. I mean, it can if you're a really, really good writer.
Right,
but,
it's tough.
But it's tough. Yeah, much tougher. And I would say most people in our field are probably, I think there's a sticking point around creating that content. So another piece is, don't feel like you have to just write. You can record yourself. I actually feel like this is my magical medium, talking. And because like, I could probably, okay, so just to give you a reference point, if we talk for 45 minutes or 50 minutes, that's like 15 pages worth of written content. So it's like crazy to think of it like that, but it's like, no, seriously. Like, so I think we're kind of locked into like, oh, I got to write, but it's like, no, like there's this guy, Gary Vaynerchuk, and you should totally put him in your show notes as a really excellent marketer and media guy. He's like doing Snapchatting constantly and like constantly interfacing with the web. Like, he does these things called the Daily V. And I'm not saying everyone should do what he does, because he's got like people following around with cameras and all that. But maybe like, I guess what I'm trying to say is step up your communication of what you do. Even if it's like I was visiting the team up in San Jose where the company's based. And I was like, having so much fun, just like taking pictures of me and the guys, like almost like a selfie. But I was like, it was fun, but I was like, that IT life, fixing someone's stuff, help desk. Like, we need to sort of have more showing rather than telling, like show people what you're doing, show them. And this guy, Gary Vaynerchuk, is great at doing that, because he's like running around all day in meetings and like, he'll have people Snapchatting him questions. And then there's this guy filming him. So you see him sort of Snapchatting at different people that are asking him questions. He just has an unprecedented level of like interaction and engagement.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie, I'm not that crazy, but I am friendly and outgoing, but like when I see people like that, I'm just like, whoa, there's like so many more levels you can take this to.
Yeah.
So
and I follow Gary V too, and I see what he does. And the great thing about, and I think the great takeaway from what he does is it's not fancy. It's not in front of a green screen. It's not scripted. It's just him talking about what he does in like he's just sitting across the table from you with a webcam kind of look, And I think that's something you can do as a business owner. You don't have to worry about getting an HD camera, getting a studio, getting the right lighting. You just flip open your laptop, fire up the built-in camera, and talk to the camera as if it is a potential client. Say, hey, this is what we do. This is a story about a client we worked with the other day and how we got them over this particular problem. Throw it up on YouTube, and
there you go.
Hey, it took 10, 15 minutes out of your day, and it could be the thing that speaks to that one client that ends up being your rock star client.
Exactly. And actually, it's funny. I was watching the Daily V, I think it was yesterday, and someone actually sent him a Snapchat, and they were actually in your field. They were in IT, and he said, I'm an IT repair shop. So this is actually a perfect tip for your crowd. And he said, what should I do to generate more business, more leads? And Gary said, you know what you should do, man? You should make a 40-second video every day with some IT tip and just keep doing that. And I was like, wow, how simple is that? The idea is simple. The execution is the tough part. And that's what I think you'll find is that the hard part is the execution. I mean, you've clearly gotten over the hump by doing the show. But I think that's the thing. Like even myself, like I'm doing the show, I'm comfortable doing the show. I'm in a good groove. And, but then it's like, wait, now we need to add live streaming, or now we need to, do some other stuff. And it might throw you off a little bit because you're thinking, well, I figured out blogging, or I figured out podcasting, or I figured out posting on social media. And now it's like, you want me to do Snapchat or like live stream or like, but at the end of the day, that's again, back to my original point, messaging. Who cares what channel? If your messaging is awesome, your stories are awesome, then it really doesn't matter. Like give me like this Arugula app. That's the next biggest thing. Fine. I'll talk into that. I don't care. Like it doesn't matter, Yep. I mean, not to be too silly, but
there's a guy in our industry. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's called Eli, the computer guy.
Oh, I love Eli. Isn't he in your area, or he's in Baltimore? I think.
I think so. I'm not sure exactly.
He was one of the first people I encountered when I was like putting together content on what is the cloud. He had an amazing, it was like 40 minutes, like not 40 seconds, 40-minute video, but it was so in depth and really well done. So I actually like that guy a lot.
Yeah. And so he's doing exactly what we're talking about, right? He just gets in front of a camera, talks about a specific topic, whether it's he's talking to computer business owners or end users, and he's built a nice little empire out of just,
and he starts drawing charts, and like once you start drawing charts, then it's on.
That's the next level.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, that's great. No, those are great points and thoughts. 'Cause it's like, it just gets really like busy and noisy and saturated. And I really like to remove the noise. Overwhelming. Yeah. Because like, if you can kind of just say like to your point about stories and all that, and I'm still like, cracking this code, so it's something that, like I said, observing Microsoft and seeing how they conduct themselves, like literally the fact that they're doing that roadshow with the 2-day free courses, that literally validated my idea of maybe I should offer some kind of like free introductory course on different subject matter. And then I would add to that, get creative about how you talk about that subject matter. Like, could you be talking about productivity? For example, we are migrating people into Office 365. And then I had the insight, wait a minute, like, okay, here's a great tool, but like, you're only productive if you know how to use the tool well. So, I've been thinking about like, what's the best way to use Office 365? In fact, what's the best way to use apps in general? I was even thinking about it. I'm like, I just kind of started using them and tinkering with them. Like most social media, it's been that way. I didn't read a book on like, how do you use Twitter? How do you use Facebook? You just start using it. But then I've realized, wait, but it might make sense to step back and think about what's the most effective way to use that from a productivity standpoint. And I think most people don't actually step back and think of it from that angle. So I think sometimes, kind of like how we're talking about marketing now, the angle isn't always tech specifically. It's like some auxiliary piece of tech that's very important, like productivity or like functionality. That can also get obscured in the discussion of tech itself. So I like making all these distinctions just to kind of make it easy for people to understand things. And,
I think a really big takeaway that you mentioned is to and it bears repeating, pay attention to the leaders in the industry, the people who are doing what either you eventually want to be doing, or who have been doing what you've been doing for a long time, or who are the leaders in your space, and do what they're doing, because they obviously have the time and money and experience to know what works, and to have the resources to put together something that is working for them. So, don't reinvent the wheel in that respect.
Absolutely.
Look to those folks and emulate what they're doing. And I also love, you mentioned, that what you love about Microsoft is they were using stories and case studies and real world examples. And I think that's another thing that folks in our industry don't do enough of. We're used to talking specs and talking features and talking technology, that we don't think about, the people, the stories of the people that we help. And, you can say, if you work with like a bakery putting together their POS system, you can, ask them if it's okay, or if it's not okay, you can just, not mention their name, but say, hey, we worked with this bakery. They were having this issue with their POS system. We fixed it. And now they're able to, take credit cards from an iPad as they walk around the bakery and talk about the success they had. And I think that would really speak to the potential clients that are out there that might be having those same issues.
Totally. Yeah. Like I said, just go to Microsoft's website and look at how they, obviously we're not on video here, but I can just quickly articulate it. Like, just look at their buttons, look at the color of it. Like it says, missed Azure Con, watch now. So they have a way you can watch this previous conference they had. They have sign up and deploy your first cloud solution in under 5 minutes, try for free. Bam. It's green. It's like, there's this whole science of like design, UX, UI, user experience, user interface. Right. And I do call it a science because that's exactly what it is. I mean, we often don't think of it as a science. We think of it as like, whatever, it's some design stuff. Yeah. But they have optimized this, companies across the board, Amazon, like there's somebody constantly optimizing buttons. That's their whole job.
Yeah. And that can be a whole podcast episode onto itself.
Right. But back to the original point, this is why you can look at, like, I'm on SlideShare on LinkedIn. I got my slide from that presentation I mentioned, which hopefully you'll link to in the show notes. But, there's an upload button in the top right of SlideShare that's orange and like the background's kind of black and white and it stands out. It's like, oh, yeah, upload. So, that's another thing on your websites, make stuff obvious. Like, if you have an opt-in place, you want someone to sign up for a newsletter or a guide or a course, make it obvious, make it easy. We're still working on that ourselves. So, don't look at our website too hard because we got some stuff in the works. But, that's the thinking there. That's the thinking there.
Exactly.
And that's, I think, the whole point is to, is to kind of like create, like leverage these different sort of insights and sciences and case studies. And it doesn't have to mean you have to be Microsoft or build an empire. Frankly, like kind of what you explained Paco doing and what you're doing, there's no reason that it can't be applied to your own small or bigger than small business and make it really efficient. And if anything, this is just kind of making your life easier because your marketing is kind of, I hate to say on autopilot, that sounds a little too like hands off, but it can be very automated without a doubt. And
you set it up once and then it just continues working for you.
Exactly. Like, if you ever sign up for free courses and you get those sort of like email, like, sequences of information, stuff like that. Like, that's where I feel like marketers and internet marketers, really have it figured out. And that's where we can start coming back to like, okay, what are the tools and what are the channels to use? I would just say automation as a concept, and then you pick tools that can help you with that, whether it's a CRM that helps you keep track of follow-ups, whether it's an automated marketing system where you can kind of set up a sequence of emails. So when someone opts into a, let's say you've got some free, like how to, like intro to IT repair or, whatever is useful to your customers, biggest IT problems that are easy to fix, ebook guide, whatever. You download it, get their info, and then there's a sequence of emails that would go out to them. Again, that's something that I think everyone wants like this perfect solution, but even the best marketers are constantly testing. So you have to kind of play scientist and try this, try that. And probably the biggest issue is documenting what you did and then checking out the results. So that's not, I think, natural for everyone, but that is that if there is a secret sauce, that would be it.
Yeah. And you mentioned this a few times, throughout this talk that, you're still figuring stuff out and you're still testing and tweaking. And I think the big takeaway, through that thread is that marketing is never done. You never just put together a plan and say, okay, I'm done with marketing. Let me go work on something else. It's something you're even the big boys are constantly tweaking, constantly testing, constantly looking at things that work and don't work. It's always evolving. Yeah. So
yeah, exactly. And think about this. Google, of all people, you would think they've owned the world by now, right? Google is actually behind in the cloud race, and they just hired Diane Greenberg. She was the founder of VMware, and she had a startup. They bought her startup for like 150 million. And then they're like, oh, here's 150 million in Alphabet stock. Please come and help Google develop and sell our enterprise solutions, including the cloud. Thank you very much. But it's like Microsoft and Amazon are like zooming ahead. And so
yeah, Google's never been really good at marketing from what I've noticed. They just put stuff out there, and if people like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't.
Right. And I think that's due to their engineering heavy culture. Nothing against engineers. It's just like I've talked to a lot of people in that space, and they definitely don't think in terms of marketing. So it kind of makes sense, like what you're saying. But at the same time, like I guess I'm just pointing that out to say everyone's trying to figure this out, especially with this subject matter. I almost feel like if someone could convince Gary Vee to be like flipping out about the cloud, we would be in good shape, or IT.
Right.
Because it's like the way he goes about it is like you put any subject matter in his sort of crosshairs and like he's going to make it awesome. So I think there's something to be gained.
Passion factor.
Exactly. I think that's probably the piece that maybe our industry could use a little more of, is sort of that like super like high energy. And I got to be honest with you, I think if we were even a fraction of that energy, which I feel like you and I, we got to like upbeat, your show pretty upbeat. We try to keep ours upbeat. That's actually a good thing for the industry because it keeps it accessible and interesting. And like sometimes you read these forums and it's just so dry and heavy and like everyone's so smart and like read and like it's just like, oh my God, I don't know what to do here.
IT is scary for the average person, and they're intimidated by even just trying to figure out what IT needs they need, what services they need. It's overwhelming and scary for a lot of people. And yeah, I think having an upbeat personality, treating it like it's something fun and something accessible, it can make a big difference.
Oh, big time. Let's see. I got my presentation here. I didn't know if
oh yeah.
So any other
so this was a presentation you said you gave at MSP World Conference?
Yeah, exactly. And I've kind of gone over quite a lot of the main points, but like I was saying, looking at UX and UI, looking at other companies, how their stuff looks. I actually opt into tons of newsletters and ebooks and guides, way too many to be honest. But I really I actually am constantly taking screenshots of like the opt-in page, like what was the page after that, and then after that, and like I just try to pay attention to what is like a really smooth experience, because sometimes you just opt into so much stuff and it's easy to forget like, wait, what just happened? Because you just zoomed right in. So
it's good to do all that. Yeah, sign up for everything and pay attention to what they're doing and take away what you like about the experience and use that in your own marketing. That's a good.
And I missed the Cloud Roadshow Microsoft, but I would totally, if anyone is in a place they're going, check that out. And I would love to, I'm going to try to go to another one, or, I might even try to reach out to them and get them to come on the show, because I think it's a great strategy. And I would love to go to those events and see how they're doing what they do. So again, like a lot of this is just paying attention.
All right, guys. We had a little technical issue there. Not surprisingly, as computer techs, we know that nothing's perfect and computer issues can happen. So, Aaron, let people know what happened and why you got disconnected.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. So my computer essentially like decided to do an update, and it just was like, hey, I'm going to unilaterally update myself. Like now is clearly the time, not later. So it just did it.
Using Windows 10?
I'm actually still on this older laptop on Windows 7, believe it or not. So I'm sure heavily they're going to keep like working on me to like do that free upgrade.
They really
right?
want you to. I'm surprised it wasn't an upgrade that they just
happened. They were like, "That's it. We're tired of your 7."
No more recording.
Exactly. But this is actually a great thing to point out about IT and in general, is that I think there's this. It's kind of like a PR thing, because when stuff goes wrong, it like makes everyone look bad. Oh my God, Amazon, AWS is outage. But at the end of the day, like, that is the whole reason these different businesses and companies exist, because stuff happens. I mean, like the fact that we had to sort of do our own little like troubleshooting ourselves. I mean, that's actually like pretty par for the course, to be quite honest. I mean, I'm actually, knock on wood, most of my shows have been pretty smooth, but definitely little things like that's why people are in this business. That's why people are there. And then when you start incorporating, like enterprises and like enterprise level
a lot on
data
the line at that level.
Yeah. I mean, you've got people to deal with, you've got the sensitivity of data and just the stakes of that work. And you're right in the middle of it. We're right in the middle of it. Like the techs are right in the middle of it. And it's amazing. It's amazing.
It's great job security. I mean, that's the bottom line is there's always, and there's a lot of folks, who listen to this show, not a lot, but every now and then I'll get some folks who say, break fix, computer repair is dead, or desktops are dead, or laptops are dead, or mobile's going to take over everything, or this or that. And well, maybe, but there's always going to be a need for folks who are technologically astute and understand how all this stuff works to be there to help folks, work through this stuff. Always. It's always going to be a need. And so I think IT services are just in their infancy now, and it's just going to continue to grow.
That's a really interesting thing to discuss, because on our show, I had told you when we had our interview, I was totally surprised because I think there's this tendency for the industry, particularly sort of the managed services and cloud space, to say, proactive management is the way now. And but then I realized after talking to you, not only is break fix alive and well, but there's people that prefer that model. And to your point, I think it will just evolve like what Paco's doing, where he is essentially doing sort of a managed services, but for residents. And that's really pretty brilliant, because he can essentially probably work on a smaller scale compared to like serving an enterprise. Because, one thing I've realized is like, if you have one residential client, that's one residential client. They're probably not going to scale into 50 unless maybe they're like become a hackerspace. Maybe you'll get a few more people coming in there. Right. But for the most part, they're not going to become 50 users. Whereas with an enterprise, they could become like hundreds of users. And that has happened with some of our clients. They started at like 50, and then all of a sudden they're getting funding and more support. And now they're at several hundred. And it's like, what? So as a managed services provider, as a cloud services provider, as a cloud consultant, an IT consultant, you're kind of always on, and you have to help companies deal with their growth. And that's sort of our value proposition, is we're bringing enterprise grade tools to smaller businesses that are growing, that may not know what to do. And, those are great customers for us. But like back to your point about break fix being dead, it's like, not really. If anything, IoT might kind of keep that more sort of B2C side, like residential model, quite alive and well, because there's going to be even more complexity when all these different things we have are now attached to all these different computers. I mean, in a way, it might be more valuable. It might make your offering more valuable, because there's more things that you can help them with and manage. And I had this really interesting insight the other day about green, like the sort of green angle. And, I was thinking about how, virtualizing into the cloud or moving data into the cloud, reducing a server, there's an environmental impact. There's some crazy statistic, like 20% of a server's capacity is utilized like for most of the year. I think they literally are planning for this like spike in capacity, like once a year, like when everyone goes to their website around Christmas, okay, November, we get a spike. So literally they might get close to max capacity that 1 month. And then the rest of the time it's just sitting around, and it's like, that's insane. And so, I've been thinking a lot about how we can quantify some of those, just that data, because
the ROI on going to the cloud.
Yeah. And get really specific, because at the end of the day, it's like business cases, business use cases. And, so that's kind of the enterprise side,
You read my mind on one question I was going to ask, which was what are some of the strategies you're using in, Network Remedy to get clients who are kind of resistant to moving their stuff to the cloud? How do you convince them that it's probably not the best idea to have everything on premises, but they're resistant because, they don't trust the cloud, or they don't like giving up control. And so I think, one of the ways you can do that is, giving them the cost benefit analysis and the environmental impact and all of that stuff. That's a good way to spin it. Was there any other kind of strategies you're looking for in that way?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I have encountered a little bit of resistance, but it's often from like upper management, like, the people that are maybe tasked with taking on some kind of IT services. They can get pretty sensitive about you like touching their network or being like, just it's a very sensitive situation. So there can be resistance. Like we do a network assessment, and we did have a client that was kind of like, well, we want to make sure corporate says it's okay. So you may have to just sort of find all the decision makers and stakeholders and inform them. I'm actually creating content. I mean, back to the whole content and marketing thing. Like, I hope that what people get out of this is that marketing doesn't have to be this like, yay, cat picture, it's gone viral. It can be very specific and niche. Like, my point would be, we don't need to have millions of people following our videos going viral. In fact, that would probably not be that helpful, because arguably you might not be able to even handle all the business if you got 1 million views on YouTube. So actually, maybe you only want like 100 or 1,000. And maybe that's okay, because, that is serving your business model. So, so I would say strategies, I mean, niche out your content. So like, if there's an objection or there's problems, maybe you could collect them and then create content that sort of alleviates that. Like for me, for example, we have this network assessment. So I actually interviewed the company that does the network assessment, and I still have to figure out how I want to like deploy that content. Obviously it's a show and an interview, but I'm also thinking, hey, that could be an aid. So, whatever area, that applies for you. If there's sticking points for people, I would definitely like gather the data for them and just present it to them. And you know what? I got to be honest. If people are like seriously being like, just really like annoying to deal with, I hate to say it like that, but maybe, they're kind of self-filtering, maybe there's sort of a self-filtering, and I'm not trying to be mean, but I have noticed that in a lot of, like sort of seminars and stuff I've been to around for MSPs and IT, there's actually like sort of a vetting process on the side of the supplier, or I'm sorry, the provider. Like
not every client is going to be a good client.
Yeah. So it's like, it's kind of a funny like game of like, you are also evaluating them. And obviously you want to be like, super friendly, super like, sort of polite and give them all the information. But I also kind of have this thought of, I don't think it makes sense to serve every single person, particularly if they're not going to value you, or they're going to kind of just be really annoying to deal with, and especially if there's not the like revenue to sort of justify that. And I know that sounds really like superiority, but I mean, at the end of the day, like this is a very valuable like skill and work. So I think that's one thing I've learned about, is like getting really clear on your value and being so like I was talking to this guy who was kind of helped and given me some tips with my pitch and stuff. And his comment was, you just need to be so firm in your resolve that, you are it. And when you pitch to people, they're just like, wow. It's kind of like the Gary V mojo a little bit. Like take some of that just intensity and just crank it up a little bit. I don't think we need to go that hardcore, because if anything, that might be a little too much for some niches. But I think a little bit of intensity goes a long way, especially if people are a little more like, just a sleepier kind of crowd, or they're thinking it's going to be boring and they're just like almost ready to go to sleep before you even start talking. And if you can kind of add a little intensity and keep it interesting, I think that really will stimulate people. That's part of what you can do in your marketing, is use your marketing as a filter as well. So you're putting out your personality, what you do best, the way you work, and people are going to see that and they're going to be like, I want to work with this guy, or I don't want to work with this guy, or this company. And that so don't be afraid. That's a great lesson. Don't be afraid to put your personality into your marketing, because that's going to serve as a filter to make sure that only the kind of clients that you enjoy working with are going to be contacting you. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that is how it should be. You should filter, and like Gary V, like he loves dropping little like vulgarities or F-bombs or whatever. Yeah. And I'll notice like on LinkedIn, he'll post something like, put me the F out of business or whatever. And like, I'll notice people like in the comments unfollowing. And I'm just like, there you go, filtering. Like maybe you want to drop like an F-bomb in your newsletter, just because like that's the level you want to be at. You want to be able to like not be super like sensitive about it. And maybe like, maybe that's kind of what you do, or maybe you're like, nah, I'm a little more conservative. Like I cater to a more sensitive, like clientele. Like, and I think it is culturally driven. Like Gary V's like, whatever, I'm going to say whatever if I want. And if you don't like it, it doesn't matter. I have a 600 person media company and I'm successful. Like, what do you mean? Like, so I think there's something to be said about, just kind of finding your crowd and tribe, and then figuring out how to communicate to them. I mean, we actually have found some niches that are like, a little bit less formal. And we actually prefer that because they're actually easier to deal with and they're ready to go. So,
Right.
that's another thought. This is almost more along the lines of sales, and sort of segment thinking, but you want to think of a low-hanging fruit, like with what Paco's doing with the residential model. Maybe he's putting together little like block parties and he's like, guys, the world's getting more complex. Here's how here's where tech is, here's where it's going, here's what I do. I'm going to be doing this for a while. I want to serve, more neighborhood, like people like yourselves. And, you can talk to Jim right here. Like you can ask him what he thinks and here's a bunch of wine, have fun. But,
right.
He doesn't need to maybe be going to investor festival and trying to get those guys to like listen to him. He's fine with just talking to his, smaller client base.
Folks.
Yeah. Or like, let's say you want to go for an enterprise, you niche out, you pick that niche. What I'm finding is when you start niching out, you will find like associations within that niche. Like if you're going for building or something. And it's crazy because if you don't niche out, you don't discover those like associations. But when you do, you just realize like how deep that
new
gets.
World. Yeah. Opens up.
So I think, this kind of combines marketing and sales of like, who is your audience? And then, cause I found, just sharing a little bit from my experience, I found myself getting super scattered, and that was not a good feeling, like on a business development or sales level, because it's like you're talking to all these people, but it just felt like no one was quite the right person. And then as soon as I got clear on the niche, and I'm like, I went to this meet, we had all hands-on meeting where, we were sort of onboarding this new client and telling them about what we do. And I was just observing and absorbing what the team was saying. And I was realizing, wow, like this is a great niche. So, let's target that niche here.
Focus on that.
And I'm finding that so far it's been a really good idea. And then also when you talk to like, let's say there's some other salespeople that might be good allies for you that know a lot of people. That's another thing. Build partnerships, allies, even if it's people that are in a totally different industry. You could partner up with them and do these sort of events together. Like you're talking about tech, they're talking about what they're talking about. If you can find a way to combine the subject matter, like I was saying about productivity, for example, like we could talk about productivity from the standpoint of like, how to use apps better, how to use these tools better. You could even incorporate some stuff like HR and payroll processing, or like ways to help a business process. Cause like I've realized is that it's about business process more than it is about tech, or as much as it is about tech. And people forget that. So,
this is all stuff that we've mentioned on the podcast, and it's great that it's coming from someone who didn't necessarily start in IT and who's had a lot of marketing experience in different other niches. But this is something we've been preaching for a while now, is to find a niche, focus in on a small niche of client or customer or service. Even like for me, I focused on WordPress.
Nice.
And Paco's
right.
focusing on residential folks who are looking for, something a little bit higher level than just a regular break fix.
Yeah.
And it's kind of counterintuitive that you narrow your scope. And yet when you do that, it all of a sudden this huge world opens up, and it just becomes so much clearer the type of clients that you want to work with, and they all show up because you're offering exactly pinpoint what they're looking for, and they just start knocking at your door out of nowhere once you start narrowing down like that. And it's amazing. And then you mentioned partnerships again. Once you do niche down, that means you have the room to partner with folks who are in a different niche than you, but still in the same industry. So you can start partnering with other IT services companies that are in different niches, and you can share clients with each other.
Exactly.
And I love that you're finding this is working in your situation as well. Cause it definitely seems to be working for me and other folks and other listeners of this podcast.
Mm-hmm. And let's say you're talking to somebody, right? And you're saying, I've said this before, well, we manage companies, data and their workstations, and we provide help desk services. And it's like, okay, but that's still a little bit like vague in terms of in their mind. So then you start saying, well, like one niche we go after is, lawyers, and, we help them, essentially like access all their important documents securely from any device they want. And we help sort of, install that functionality. So a lot of what we do is bring the solutions based on a customized sort of needs for the organization. And so I mentioned lawyers and I told the story about here's exactly how we solve their problems. So that's much more accessible. And then they're going to be going through their head thinking, what lawyers do I know? Right. Versus what I said before. Oh, workstations, help desk, blah, blah, blah. The usual talking points that there's no frame of reference at all. So this niche thing is huge because that also helps people that might want to help you. It helps them kind of go through their mental Rolodex really quick. Do we even have those anymore?
A mental Rolodex,
your CRM, yes. Whatever, your mental CRM.
Mental CRM.
You know, and so that's kind of what I've literally found. And hey, back to this show itself, my show or our show or the show we do. That's narrowcasting. And I think if we were sort of, and I think it's interesting how you're focusing on sort of the more of the like break fix sort of, evolving into managed services angle. And I'm kind of, aiming at the like I don't know anything to like I know a little bit about IT in the cloud or I'm conversant in IT in the cloud. That's sort of that's the bridge I feel like the gap I'm bridging and then you're bridging your gap. And then there's these other podcasts that I literally didn't really understand what was going on when I listened to them. So like I'm thinking, okay, well, if we do our job right, you can be conversant in cloud sort of terms. So you go to those shows and you're like, okay, I kind of know a little more about what's going on, but this is still new. So it's like, the niching is so important. And, you know, it doesn't mean that you have to like do what someone else is doing. You know, like I love what Paco's doing and I like your angle too with the sort of web development, but it's still interconnected for sure. Cause, you know, just the nature of like setting up portals and accessibility requires like this definite web development piece as well. So that's fascinating to me. And I think, the narrow casting, I mean, is a great way to just like target your local community. I mean, you know, most people like wherever they grew up or live, I mean, you probably already have contacts. I mean, I actually found it a little challenging trying to get started in LA. So if you're starting somewhere new, you got to just mentally head check. It's going to take time. However, if you're consistent, things do happen. Like this year feels a lot better than last year in terms of like momentum and insights and like where do I put my energy and who do I talk to and what do I say? I mean, I guess like, I feel like I want to emphasize it's okay to not be like super effective or amazing, you know, yet as long as you're constantly reflecting and like talking to people, engaging with the information, like looking at what other people are doing. And then of course, the ultimate goal, bring it back to what you're doing and try to implement it in a meaningful way that's good for you in particular. And it is easy to feel a little overwhelmed because there's like crazy competition and there's all these big players. But even from what you said about the Paul Paco thing, I know I keep bringing that up, but like that just kind of made me realize like there's tons of room here in this industry. And I think let's not forget, you know, how much room there is in the industry for good people that are willing to do good work, you know?
Nice. So, yep. So I think that's a great place to end it. A good positive note to end on. You know, there's plenty of room for folks and gosh, so many great things brought up in this podcast, and we'll have a link to the slideshow where a lot of these points are that you put together in a slide deck, and we'll have that link so folks can reference that and all the other links we mentioned. If just really quick, if you want to let us know what the Cloud podcast is about. Sure. In case anybody wants to check that out.
Yeah, so we just called it the Cloud. You know, we decided to not overdo it, just keep it simple. So the cloud is, I mean, you know, we say it's aimed at exploring all aspects of the cloud and how it affects us as people, enterprises, and society. That's sort of our intro line. But in terms, have some
good guests on there too. What kind of guests?
Thank you. Yeah, we try to we had Sam Lambert from GitHub. We had LA's first chief data officer. You know, people that are sort of steeped in these sort of in the sort of industry, and we interviewed someone from Rackspace. I've got some other people, really interesting people in the pipeline. A guy from Canonical who was involved in Ubuntu and Lenovo, and so it's kind of like you just meet people, and you know, everyone's got a really interesting piece to share. So like our main goal is to take someone from, I don't know anything about IT in the cloud. What is that? I've heard of it. To, okay, I understand the basics and I kind of understand like what this can do for me. Because like we're actually having more of a business focus. We do like to get a little bit technical, but only so that you understand like how it fits into like the bigger picture, because at the end of the day, you got to implement something. So that's why we get a little bit into the weeds, but we're not necessarily trying to aim it at techs or like programmers. So I think that is our biggest focus, is keeping it accessible. And frankly, I want all my content to kind of have that feel to it. And,
but I think our listeners would enjoy the podcast, because just me being on it, a lot of good discussions were had, and I think you can get some good insights from some of the movers and shakers in the cloud world.
That too,
about exactly what they're thinking and where they come from and a little bit of their background.
Oh, no doubt.
Definitely check that out. We'll have a link to the podcast in the show notes. And then you mentioned that Network Remedy. We were kind of talking after I recorded with you on the cloud. And we were talking about, I have a lot of my listeners are interested in partnering with, larger MSPs to kind of offload some of the things that they don't necessarily want to do full time in their business. Talking about niching down, we can find the niche that we're good at, focus on that, and then maybe outsource or find other service providers to take care of some of the other IT services. And so I told you about that. And you said, that's not something that Network Remedy normally does, but you're looking into kind of maybe offering that as a service to other computer business owners who might want to offload some of their other functionality so they can grow their business, maybe present themselves as more of an MSP type of service, and maybe partner with someone like Network Remedy. So how can we reach out to you guys about that?
Yeah, definitely do that. You can reach out to me, Aaron, AARON.MANGAL @networkremedy.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, Aaron Mangal, AARON.MANGAL. I'm on Twitter @HealingVibes. We've gotten this request a handful of times, and to be perfectly honest with you, we are very, very, very excited to entertain that idea. And here's another angle, just to kind of put this out there to your people. And certainly, we should chat about this further, but we are interested in moving away from doing break fix work ourselves. So there could be a real benefit to us also utilizing accomplished, reputable break fix services, particularly as we, expand, and, we kind of will sort of evaluate things on a request basis. I would say in terms of our managed services, we are sticking to mainly like California right now. However, our cloud services, that is global. But at the same time, we would love to explore how this could go both ways. You're a awesome break fix person and you want to leverage our managed services model, our cloud model, our expertise. I mean, our CEO worked for IBM and Blade Networks, so he knows how to design data centers all the way to set up a help desk. So, we could be putting stickers on your workstations, or we could be like, okay, you want a data center? Like, how do you want that to look? So, and then as a result of that, we've gotten clear on where our value is. So we've realized, we don't necessarily want our team spending time on break fix work. So we would actually love to have, a team of different, break fix, repair people that know what they're doing, consultants that know that business very, very well. And since we're trying to sort of move away from it, I definitely think, and our CEO said this, pointedly, that there could definitely be partnerships going both ways. So if anyone even has, if you're just curious, if you already have something in mind, if you want to just chat and see what we could do, we would love to do that. And I think there's a lot of partnerships, like, you totally opened me up to it when you asked me like, oh, like, do you guys ever white label? Because I had gotten that question before, but I just didn't realize like how strong that model still is. And I feel like we can kind of augment them without them having to be, as I was saying, always on. Cause like when you're an MSP, it's always on. It's crazy. Whereas you guys are kind of like, you can turn it off, which is kind of cool. And I can, me personally, I can appreciate that, because so often in business, it's always on and you never turn it off. So I think it's nice to, you can have your, you can just structure it a little bit differently. So,
cool. So great, great potential opportunity for listeners. If you wanted to work with a larger MSP, see how they can help you, see how you can help them. It would be a great synergy. And I love that you guys are open to doing this and putting that out there. So I love helping out my listeners. So if you guys are interested, definitely reach out to Aaron.
Yeah, and you've already taught me so many great resources, like with Mixmac, with the scheduling and Zencaster. So I love learning from different people. Cause like, I feel like you guys really know, like, you got all these tools, and I'm always like amazed at, how people do what they do. So, maybe we can.
IT guys, we love our tools.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe, we could think about doing some more instructional, content, and really dive in. So that's something we can talk more offline, but just wanted to throw that out there. So.
Awesome. Yeah, well, definitely, you guys will be seeing more of Aaron in the future, I'm sure. So stay tuned for that. So thanks, Aaron, again for being a guest and delivering awesome value to our listeners.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, I'm glad to do it.
And let's keep in touch, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Talk soon.
All right. Before we get into the computer business tool, I wanted to take a minute to talk about TechSite Builder. Of course, this is a product that's near and dear to my heart. This is something that I built to be the a self-hosted, fully hosted website builder for computer business owners. So my goal with TechSite Builder was to make it as easy and hands-off as possible for you to still, have a say in building your website. So I know, there are services you can go to. They will create a website for you and they'll manage it for you and all of that stuff. There's also, you can go out and put up your own website and build it from scratch or get a template. And TechSite Builder kind of fills the gap in between those two scenarios. If, you don't have the time or the skills to build your own website from scratch, and you don't either have the money or you do actually want a say in how your website looks and how it's put together, and you want to, type all your own copy and that sort of thing. This is kind of the good gap, fill in the gap between that, right? With TechSite Builder, you can you can put together a unique website and get it up and running quickly. So once you sign up for TechSite Builder, it will spit out a website for you, and you can get it ready in pretty much under an hour, right? You can fill in your business information, your address, your services you provide. You can put in as much information as you want, and your website will be looking good. It'll be mobile responsive. It'll be SEO ready. And SEO optimized and ready to go. And then it'll be out there. And then over time, you can add more things to it. You can start a blog. You can do whatever you want. A recent addition that I just added to TechSite Builder last month was, over 100 stock photos. So you want to get some photos up on your website, and you don't necessarily have a professional camera that you can go around taking pictures of everything and making it look good. And you can go to a stock photo site and try to search through hundreds of thousands of different photos to try to find one that, works for your business. What I've done is I've kind of curated some of the best computer service centric stock photos and made them available right within your dashboard of TechSite Builder. So you just press a button and add one of these pictures to your slider or to your services page, and it fits in perfectly. It looks good. You don't have to crop it or anything like that. So it's things like that, little details that really make TechSite Builder, tailor-made for computer business owners, right? You have your phone number is easily accessible. You have a contact form on the front page. If you want to check out Jeff Halash, who's the host of the Podnuts podcast, his website is built on TechSite Builder, and you can check that out at technutpc.com and see what he's done with TechSite Builder. You can really, it's powerful enough where you can make the website your own. It's not going to look like a cookie cutter website if you put the time into it. But if you just want to have a website quickly and easily, you can do that too with TechSite Builder.
Yeah. And the important thing about that is that everyone needs to know is that this is your one-stop shop, right? It's your way of being able to get what you need, get going, and get a really great website that's going to be really good to what you guys need it for. You can, and Matt's talked about this before where, you could go to another website there, builders, and try and find the photos. But why do all that? I mean, you are in the business of making money, right? So the biggest piece about this is getting on TechSite Builder not only frees up time for you because, again, one-stop shop of having it hosted, having the website ready for you to put your content in there. And with this latest edition of the stock photos, I mean, it's just a no-brainer, in my opinion, to kind of get into this. But that's just my biased opinion, not me, because, that's just what I have to say. But I really think this is a really great value, and especially at what you have for the monthly subscription for this. I think Matt has really put in a lot of great work on this, and there's so many great features that are going to be coming out very soon.
Yep. Yeah. I've definitely got a lot on my development plate for it. So just going to definitely be rolling that stuff out slowly but surely. Definitely have big plans for it in the future. So if you want to get a website up and running quickly and get in there on the ground floor, definitely check out TechSite Builder. Go to techsitebuilder.com. We have either monthly or annual payment plans. And again, we take care of hosting for you. We take care of, the updates, the security, all of that stuff is taken care of for you. So you can get back to just running your business and just, have the peace of mind that your website's going to be taken care of and running smoothly for you. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the Computer Business Toolbox.
It's time to open the Computer Business Toolbox.
All right, so today we have a kind of a different tool, but it's cool, I think, and it's something that Paco brought to my attention that I'm going to start using, and it's something that's going to help, really, because I know a lot of us techs, we are very technical minded. We like getting our hands dirty, and we're not necessarily the best at communicating, and, communicating like properly or spelling or whatever. So, we have the spell checkers out there that are built into everything we use. So luckily we have that to save us, because I'm a horrible speller as well. But then
I am as well.
But then there's the grammar piece, right? There's a whole thing about proper grammar and all of that stuff. And so Paco found a solution that is kind of like a spell checker for grammar. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah. So I forgot what podcast I was listening to, but they mentioned this app, and it was one of those where he just kind of said it slyly. He's like, "Oh, I just love Grammarly. Grammarly is just one of the best things I've ever had." So I just got curious. I looked it up, and it's essentially what you just said. It's a grammar checker, and it's a plugin. It also has an app that you can install on your PC, so it can do it for Word and Outlook. And essentially what it does, it corrects your grammar. And see, the problem with me is I write like how I talk, and that's not the right way to write, essentially. So
that would not be a good sentence, by the way.
Right, exactly, right. So that's essentially why, and especially when doing client communications out of, let's say, for repair shop or for emails going out, just all above, or writing out an article, Grammarly has really helped out, because it's corrected a lot of not only just spelling issues, but it actually had pointed out on why this particular sentence should not sound correct. It does not sound right. Or, hey, why don't we go ahead and swap this word for this, or maybe modify this section here to present what you're trying to say. So it's really cool. It works essentially just like a spell checker. It underlines what it believes is incorrect. You kind of click on it. It has a little pop-up and tells you what needs to be modified. It's very simple. Go in, hit save, and you're on your way. And they have I believe they have either a tiered system or two packages. Basically, you got the free plugin, which has, I think it's about 10,000 corrections, if I'm not mistaken. And then you have their paid version as well. The app has been very well. I've been using it for the past probably a couple of weeks now, and it's really helped out with a lot of the communications on my end, and being able to really say what I want to say, but obviously writing it out.
Cool. So you can check that out at Grammarly.com. We'll also have a link in the show notes to that. I'm going to start using it, and definitely a no-brainer there. Cool. So, what do you guys think of this episode? Let us know. We love to hear your feedback. So you can let us know by going to the show notes page, computerbusinesspodcast.com/episode 44. You just leave a comment in the comments section of the show notes page if you want, or you can shoot us an email at computerbusinesspodcast@gmail.com, or just visit the website, computerbusinesspodcast.com. There's a contact form there. Lots of ways to get in touch with us. So let us know what you think. We love hearing your feedback. You can also follow us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Google+, and LinkedIn. We have links to all of our social media profiles on the show notes page.
Yep. And if you guys listen to the podcast on iTunes, just be sure to give us a shout out or leave us a review. We love to hear your feedback, like we always mention. And, just every comment, it just helps our ranking in the iTunes store so that the podcast can be found and better help other technicians that are out there. And then also, guys, please use our Amazon link to purchase your next order of equipment for your business. We do have an Amazon banner at the bottom of the show notes page, or you can just go straight to computerbusinesspodcast.com/support. When you use the Amazon link, your price always stays the same, but a small percentage does come back to support the show.
And finally, don't forget to check out our wonderful sponsors, ninjamsp.com and techsitebuilder.com. Thank you for listening to the Computer Business Podcast. This is Matthew Rodella.
And this is Paco LeBron.
Saying here's to your success.
1